Okay, so this is Stalked by My Doctor.
Yes!
Love it. We open with Dr. Beck, who's waiting for his date to arrive, but he gets a phone call from his date saying she's not coming. He's trying to argue with her, but she tells him to stop writing on her wall and that she's going to block him. So he angrily drives off down the freeway.
Oh, I see.
Cue to soccer practice where Sophie and her friend Caitlin are watching their boyfriends training. After practice, Ryan, Sophie's boyfriend, and his friend Eddie walk over to the girls, and for some reason, Eddie is walking like this. No idea why. Anyway, it's conveniently the day that Sophie and Caitlin find out they've been accepted to the same college, so everyone's happy, and they go out that evening to celebrate. Ryan is texting in the car. And this infuriates Sophie, as she thinks Ryan needs to concentrate on the road. Yet she was alright with them kissing while he was driving seconds earlier. At the hospital, Dr. Beck is scrolling through an online dating site when he is called to the operating room, and here's Sophie. Dr. Beck may be awful at dating, but he seems like a pretty good doctor.
When you get well, we'll have some suction.
Okay, that's a bit weird. Sophie's parents arrive, and it turns out that Ryan, who's recovering, has already had an accident driving while texting.
He was texting again, wasn't he?
And Sophie's dad is livid. Dr. Beck explains to Sophie's parents that Sophie needs an operation.
Otherwise, she will die.
Sophie's dad then goes to visit Ryan and tells him what's happened. Ryan apologizes.
Mr. Green, I'm so sorry.
But Sophie's dad puts Ryan's phone in the hazardous waste container as punishment.
Okay.
There are some tense moments during Sophie's surgery, but it's all been a success. Dr. Beck is a hero, but oh dear, he's gone in for the kiss on his sedated patient.
That's disgusting.
But he immediately stops himself and lets the parents in to see her. Sophie wakes up and thinks Ryan has been in to visit her because she remembers being kissed, but Ryan hasn't even been in to visit.
Oh my goodness.
Dr. Beck is now back on his dating site and he's met this woman. At the date, he's showing off about his houses and gets pretty full on talking about her giving up work and raising their kids in Mexico, having just met her 4 hours ago.
But we just met. I think you need to see a therapist.
Then he makes this ridiculous scene.
Good luck getting a boyfriend, because I'm not interested.
Next day at work, he's hanging around Sophie again. He pretends he needs to change her bandage so he can touch her. She's worried she'll have a bad scar following the operation and that people will think she's ugly, but Dr. Beck says it will heal. Then he uses the fact that Ryan hasn't called her as an excuse to sell her the benefits of an older man.
I need a new boyfriend.
We then see Sophie being discharged and Dr. Beck saying he's gonna need to see her regularly, starting next week.
Isn't that a little soon?
No, it's not.
For some reason, Sophie tells him she loves him. And this is music to his ears. Sophie then goes to visit Ryan, who hasn't been in touch since the accident. Turns out Ryan's leg injury means his soccer career is over.
I'm never going to run full speed again.
And he asks Sophie to leave. At Dr. Beck's house, somebody's at the door. It's Sophie, and she's very impressed with Dr. Beck's house. She tells him she's confused and that she can't stop thinking about him. He says he feels the same way and that they were meant to be together. Then they kiss. Oh no, that was just a fantasy. There's no one at the door. Dr. Beck is home alone.
Oh, what a loser!
Next day, Sophie arrives back at the hospital and she's brought him a teddy bear with a note that she tells him he has to open when he gets home. Sophie's mum is getting a bad feeling about Dr. Beck, but Sophie brushes it off. When they leave, Dr. Beck opens the note and yes, it's poorly worded. Reading the words heart and love, he decides that he should park outside her house and follow her.
Of course. Well, isn't that what most people do?
They've gone to the mall and Dr. Beck acts like they've met there by chance. Sophie invites him to join her and her friend Caitlin. Then Dr. Beck sends Caitlin to get some cake and starts acting inappropriately. Sophie finally realizes that he's a creep when he touches her hand and asks her to go to a movie with him.
I mean, just you, not Caitlin.
Sophie says no and Dr. Beck storms off in a mood, then smashes through garbage shouting, "I'm a doctor."
I'm a doctor! I'm a doctor!
Sophie reports this behaviour to her parents, but the dad's like, yeah, just leave it, he's a good doctor.
Guys will be guys.
Before agreeing to speak to Dr. Beck, who explains there's been a misunderstanding.
I'm a doctor.
And that it's common for patients to idolise their doctors.
I don't think so.
He shows her dad the teddy bear and the note, and he's convinced him that Sophie is the weird one. But her mum isn't buying it, and says any more creepiness and they're changing doctors.
Smart.
Now Dr. Beck is looking at Sophie's photos online before starting to park outside her house again. But this time he doesn't follow her, he breaks into her house while she's out. He goes into her room, starts touching and smelling stuff, then gets into her bed and fantasizes about sex with Sophie, who's arrived back home with her mum. Ryan turns up at the door and they go to Sophie's room, so Dr. Beck hides in the bathroom. Here he hears Ryan telling Sophie that he still wants them to be together, and he gives her his grandma's ring. This infuriates Dr. Beck, who has to try to stop himself from jumping out and interrupting them, but instead he escapes the house. At the hospital, he starts asking questions about Ryan's appointment schedule. At Ryan's next visit, he pretends he's coming in to check up on him, but he uses this as an excuse to steal his phone. Knowing that Sophie is self-conscious about her scar, he uses the phone to text Ryan's friend Eddie and says this: "My girlfriend has a huge scar under her left tit. I'm dating the Bride of Frankenstein." Eddie then shows this message to Caitlin.
Read this.
"That's nice, Eddie, you absolute c***." And it gets back to Sophie. Ryan denies sending it,
I did not send that text.
but Sophie doesn't believe him. Ryan works out that it was Dr. Beck who sent the text and turns up at his house. Ryan accuses Dr. Beck of creeping on Sophie and tells him that she's dumped him because of this text.
So what are you trying to do? Are you trying to make Sophie hate me? Well, it's worked. She broke up with me.
Dr. Beck denies this and suggests another reason why she may have ended things.
You almost killed her.
So Ryan attacks him with his crutch, but Dr. Beck gets the upper hand and throws Ryan's crutch away, leaving Ryan on the ground and having to hop back to his car. Ryan then texts Sophie, telling her that Dr. Beck is in love with her and that he's just tortured him.
Beg to differ.
Just as she gets the message, Dr. Beck approaches Sophie and Caitlin at the mall. She asks him if he tortured Ryan, and he denies it. Then, to say sorry for making her feel uncomfortable, he gives her a doll, just like the ones in her bedroom. She says she can't accept it and they leave. Then Dr. Beck goes into the bathroom, destroys the doll and cries. Back at home, Sophie is telling her parents about how weird Dr. Beck is being.
It's like he's a middle schooler and he wants me to help him lose his virginity.
And they finally decide to change doctors. So they go to the hospital to get Sophie's records, but Dr. Beck is there. Sophie's mum tells him that his behaviour is unacceptable and to stay away from her. Angry at this, he goes into Sophie's mum's file and changes her medication to something she's allergic to. We then see what's clearly another of Dr. Beck's fantasies playing out, where he's out to dinner with Sophie, while her mum takes her new medicine. When the real Sophie gets home from school, she finds her mum collapsed on the floor, unable to breathe. They go to the hospital and a nurse tells Dr. Beck that they're there. He tries to talk to Sophie, but she brushes him off. Later, as Sophie is visiting her college, Dr. Beck has decided to turn the heat up. Yep, he's moved on to a chloroform-soaked rag. He tries to grab Sophie, but Sophie manages to escape to her car and drives off. But he follows her, pulls up in front of her, and smashes her window. We then see Sophie's parents at home, who get a visit from the police telling them that Sophie is dead. Her car had hit a lamppost and burst into flames. Cut to Dr. Beck at home, who has Sophie tied to his bed. He's made her a fake ID and plans to take her with him to Mexico. It turns out who everyone thinks is Sophie is a random similar body from the morgue with adjusted dental records.
Yes, of course. Now things are beginning to make sense.
Ryan says the ring taken from the body, believed to be Sophie, is not the ring he gave Sophie,
This isn't my grandma's ring.
and starts to suspect the body is not Sophie's. Sophie's mum is partially on board with this, but her dad is not having any of it. So Ryan and Sophie's mum decide to go to Dr. Beck's house, as they find out he adjusted the coroner's report.
Oh, I see.
Dr. Beck hears them coming, so sedates Sophie before answering the door. Ryan looks around the house, but there's no sign of her. Oh, he's put her in that trunk. As they're leaving, Sophie wakes up and starts screaming, but it's too late, they've gone. So she's back tied up on his bed, but then starts to play along with Dr. Beck's fantasy. At first, he's suspicious, but he believes what he wants to believe in the end. She says she wants to know what it's like to be with a man who knows what he's doing.
Well, I did take a full semester of gynecological studies, so I am quite skilled.
That is so off-putting.
So he unties her hands. Sophie tries to stab him with a knife, but she's too slow. She tells him she hates him, so he starts crying again.
I just want someone to be with me.
Tears quickly turn to anger, and Dr. Beck says he's going to cut her arms and legs off.
Get ready for surgery.
As he's preparing his tools, Sophie manages to get herself free and smashes him over the head with a lamp. She runs to the front door, but it's locked. She knees him in the balls, then smacks him round the head a load of times with a golf club, grabs his keys and drives off. When Sophie gets home, she sees her funeral going on in her backyard. When she walks out, everyone is shocked, especially this outstanding extra. Everyone is crying, and here comes Ryan limping with his crutch. Oh, apparently not. He's sprinting. Brilliant.
That's a crock of shit.
The police show up at Dr. Beck's house, but there's nobody there. No, he's in Mexico, waiting for his next date. The end.
Not bad.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and check out this other video. Thank you.